Today, my administration submitted a draft resolution to Congress to authorize the use of force against ISIL.
Obama's request is deliberately vague.
Well, what we have language is fuzzy, is it not?
Intentionally so. And the intent
intentionally
is...
so. The
yes.
language is intentionally fuzzy.
Yes, Jim.
But the intent is crystal clear.
With our allies and partners, we are going to degrade and ultimately destroy this terrorist group.
Under the resolution, U.S. forces would have wider latitude on the ground against ISIS. But this fight is also Canada's, at least until April, when the current mission in Iraq expires.
We are assessing whether or not to seek an extension, a motion approving an extension of that military mission, and what the terms would be.
My sense is that it will be very difficult for Canada not to stay committed, especially in light of the rhetoric and the harsh words that have been used.
The international jihadist movement has declared war.
Tony Batista is a retired colonel. He thinks Canada has the capacity to do more.
I think we'll probably have an increased presence in terms of special forces, possibly even in the air.
Canada already has nearly 70 Special Forces troops on the ground. Their mission is training, but they fought on the front lines on 4 occasions that we know of.
I don't want to get into the details. I would prefer not to go there.
And it doesn't put the whole contest in our living room on a daily basis. And I'm sorry to say that, but you know, special forces do operate in a certain level of secrecy.
Any closer to a ground war with ISIS poses more risk of public backlash. Pollster Daryl Bricker has been watching Canadian public opinion for years. It was divided in 2003, the last time the U.S. went to war in Iraq.
Canadians were really quite reluctant, but mostly it was French Canada that was very reluctant. So if you looked at the rest of the country, actually there was majority support for doing something in Iraq.
Canada will not participate.
Jean Chrétien's decision to sit the war out was disparaged by then opposition leader Stephen Harper.
I think this government is going to regret not being on the side of freedom and democracy and instead reading a bunch of silly polls.
This time round, those polls work in Harper's favor.
On the ISIL mission, we see the numbers consistently in the mid-60s. We've even seen it as high as the low 70s. So, you know, quite frankly, there's something going on here.
For pollsters like Bricker, that flies in the face of conventional wisdom.
It surprises us every day. This is one of those issues, if you would have asked me 5 years ago how Canadians would have responded, I might have had a very different answer.
Bricker believes the Canadian public could now support more.
They currently support the bombing mission. I would suspect if we got into boots on the ground, they would at least be as high as it was in Afghanistan.
Now it's the opposition on the wrong side of the polls. The government, meanwhile, says fighting ISIS in Iraq protects Canadians at home. That message resonates after attacks from Paris to Parliament Hill.
A grim reminder that Canada is not immune to the types of terrorist attacks we have seen elsewhere around the world.
And in an election year, that means this Iraq war could work very well for the Conservatives.
There's an old adage in politics, it's actually from a Liberal campaign manager, which is find an issue, make it your own. They found an issue and they made it their own.